Dad, he wanted to be, my pappy, he wanted to be a lumberjack. Deep down inside, I think he really had a true desire to be a lumberjack. So first thing we did is we buy this here house, we get it all beautified, and it's all got beautiful wooded trees and hardwoods and all this crazy tree stuff on it. Dad gets this here chainsaw thing. Never seen this thing before. You ever seen a chainsaw run? I absolutely hated it. One of the things I can't stand is chainsaws and really loud noises. But chainsaws is worse because they make real loud noises for a long time. So he brings this here chainsaw home. He says, all right, boy, now that you're 12 and you're going to be a man, I need to teach you something about being a lumberjack. And I went, okay, being a lumberjack. All right, well, you got to cut the tree down. Oh, no, yeah, well, there's a special way to cut the tree down. I'm going to show you. Come on out here. I'm going to show you how to cut this tree down. So we walk on down the street, and we go down the backyard, and there's this got to be 80, 100-foot tall oak tree. Big old tall thing. And he says, see this tree? And I'm like, yeah. He says, this tree's got to come down. I was like, well, why is that? He goes, because, see them branches up there that don't have leaves on them? I'm like, yeah, well, the tree's sick, so we got to take it down. I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm 12, I don't care. I'm like, all right, Pop, take the tree down. What do we do? He says, here's what you do. You make yourself a V cut on one side, and then you make yourself another cut on the other side. And I went, V cut, other cut. Sounds real simple. So he says, here, I'm going to show you. You step aside. So he gets down there, and he's cutting the tree, he's cutting the tree, he's cutting the tree. And he makes cuts this big wedge out of the tree. And I'm like, wow, the tree didn't fall. That's kind of cool. And he says, now the important thing is your back cut. All right, now, which way is the tree's going to fall towards the cut part where you took the chunk out, right? And he says, yep, going to fall right over there. It's going to fall right down there between them branches and trees. You're going to miss it, and boom, right there. I'm like, okay. So here he is, gets his cut, and the strangest thing is, I saw him cutting it, and I was kind of scratching my head. I don't know, I'm only 12. He cuts this tree, and he's cutting his back cut backward like up to the notch that he cut. And when he cut it backwards like that, the tree just fell right the opposite way he wanted to go, which is, of course, where I was standing. I wasn't sure if he was trying to kill me, but I think Mom would get mad. So he's like, oh, wait a minute, boy, get out the way. So I'm like, oh, here it comes. And boom. So the tree was supposed to fall right there, and it fell right there. So the first thing you learn about being a lumberjack is you got to drop the tree in exactly the wrong way. And he started doing this consistently. Whenever he'd say, we're going to drop the tree right over there. I'm like, are you sure, Dad? Now see, that's where that first inkling of maybe your parents don't quite know how the world, everything in the world works. Right there when you say, you're going to drop it right right there. Yep, right there. Next tree come along, finds a reason to cut it down. That tree's sick. Our trees must have caught colds because they was getting sick all over the place. So he went kind of nuts. So he's like, chop, boom, chop, boom. And of course, he's dropping them 100% the wrong way, consistently. So then once the tree's down, he says, now we got to cut up all the logs, and then you got to carry the logs up the hill to split them. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine, they're around, I get them up there somehow. Now, here's where you learn that your parents and your dad, he ain't quite playing with a full deck, because he gets tired after cutting some of these trees down, and he decides that old Billy Ray, of the ripe old age of 12, because I was like as big as I am now, but I was 12, he decides old Billy Ray could use a workout. And he had this wonderful new exercise. There's no PX90 or any of them. He had this wonderful exercise called hauling logs. And hauling logs is the bestest thing, because he come out there and he's like, take the chainsaw and burp, burp, burp. Now, he ain't cutting them by hand. He chainsaw's cutting them. He's just holding the chainsaw. And then he cuts them and says, some sizes of the logs may vary. And I'm like, some sizes? Okay, well, what do you mean? Like, some of them are this big, some are this big. Oh yeah, some of them are this big, some of them are this big, some of them are this big. Some of them, when I'm real tired, are this big. I kid you not. He cut some of these logs 5 foot long. So I'm scratching my head going, that's a workout. So he gets there and he's chainsawing, bird 'em. He goes, all right, boy, pick them up, carry them up the hill. These are oak trees. I mean, oaks are heavy. Oak trees is heavy. So the first one I picked up was 4 foot long. It was almost tall as me. And I had to like teeter-totter it on my shoulder to get it up on there. And he's like, Jesus, boy, what's wrong with you? You know, you don't know how to work for a living? I'm like, hey, Pappy, I'm just trying to get these logs up the hill like you said. So I get halfway up the hill, I drop the log because it's really heavy, and I start rolling it. And it's like, all right, that works, whatever gets up the hill. So the first thing Pop taught me is drop the tree 100% the wrong way. The second thing he taught me is cut the logs at any different kind of length, because you ain't the one carrying them up the hill. Now me, you know, by the time I get done carrying about a dozen logs, I'm a little perked. And he says, get your butt up there, boy, and work that fat off you. I'm like, you know what? It didn't work, but I went ahead and carried it. So after he got done munching down about a dozen trees, he decided to go after one of the really big ones. And I was kind of worried about this. And meanwhile, Mom's getting a little upset about her wooded lot that was so pristine and wonderful was now starting to look like, I don't know, starting to look like they was testing missiles in the yard or something. But he comes out there and he suffers the worst thing that could happen to a lumberjack. He suffers nature's wrath. Now I know what you're saying. Lightning? Nope, wasn't lightning. Rainstorm? Nope, wasn't rainstorm. Mother Nature's a beautiful thing. See, I was tired from hauling all them logs and moving out the way of the trees dropping on me. And I swear to God, he was dropping them 100% the wrong way. He says, we'll cut this tree down. And this time, he was afraid he might hit the house. So he made his back cut. When he cut his notch in, he started to make his back cut. It wasn't backwards, it was straight. And what happened is Mother Nature went, and it blew the tree back on his chainsaw, and it got stuck. And in deep inside, I'm celebrating. I'm cheering. I'm like, hey, chainsaw stuck. Yeah, the chainsaw ain't gonna work today. I get the day off. Yeah, I'm tired of carrying along. Life is good. The chainsaw is stuck. Now, it's like stuck. Like, it's sticking out of the tree like, you know, somebody, like King Arthur's sword just stuck in there. You know, so nature has a way of slowing down lumberjacks when they really have to. Now he says, oh, it's okay, boy. We'll get this chainsaw started back up. Well, that tree was like, oh, I mean, it was flat as a pancake. You ain't gonna be able to pull that chain because there's a 100-foot tree on it. So I'm just sitting there going, okay, Pappy, what you want me to do? He says, go get me a sledgehammer and a chisel. I'm thinking, he's a lumberjack. I'm just me. I'm 12. I don't know nothing. So I bring the sledgehammer and the chisel down, and he starts chiseling the tree. And I'm like, what exactly is this going to do? It's denting the tree. He says, yeah, but it's going to open up a little crack and let me pull the chainsaw out. So, okay. He tap. He's just sucking right into the wood. It's a brand new, fresh tree. You know, it ate the chisel, and the chainsaw still stuck in the tree. Well, I guess we better get on out for dinner here. We'll come back and get this thing here tomorrow. I said, Dad, you gonna leave the chainsaw stuck in the tree? He says, yeah, it ain't like it's going anywhere, is it? He's got a point. So there we go. He says, and you know what? We'll just wait for the wind to blow back the other way, and then we'll chainsaw come out. I'm like, okay. That could be years. I could finally get done doing all this lumberjack stuff I never wanted to do to begin with. So about a week goes by, and sure enough, we get a storm come through, and the wind come the other way and just broke that tree in half. And when it broke that tree in half, I guess it turned or twisted, but something truly in nature is you watch out for nature. So it popped that chainsaw loose, and when we went down to get the chainsaw, the big giant metal blade was broken right in half. So it had basically broke that chainsaw blade right in half. And I was thinking, excellent. I don't have to we don't have to log this tree. I don't have to carry this. I get another week off. I don't know. Chainsaw's broke, Dad. Well, sure enough, didn't notice, but Dad knows a lot of things. Dad says, Pappy says, don't worry about it, boy. That's just a bar of the chainsaw. That's not the real chainsaw part. Those are cheap. Okay, so we go on down. Sure enough, Home Depot got them big old chainsaw bars. So he chainsaw bar, put it back together. So here we go. He survived nature's wrath, and then he's going after a tree. One of the biggest trees in the yard's cherry tree, real big, wide cherry tree. And he says, you know what? I learned something here. Nature can get you. I'm like, well, yeah, Daddy, got you. He said, we're not going to let that happen again. I'm like, we're not? Nope, we're not. He says, how are you at climbing? I says, I'm a little fat guy. Dad, I ain't the bestest climber. He says, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go get the car and back it down here to this here cherry tree, and we're going to get a rope. And I want you to shimmy up that there cherry tree. I want you to tie a rope to the top of the tree, and I want you to throw that rope down. I'm going to tie it to the bumper of the car. And we're not going to try to pull the tree or nothing, but if the tree starts to go the wrong way and break and catch the chainsaw, the line will stretch it and taunt, and we'll be able to pull it back the other way so we can get the chainsaw out. I'm like, you're 12. What are you gonna say? You're just going, this ain't good. This can't be good. But he's my father, you know. Gotta respect your elders, or I'll smack the shit out of you if you don't. So I was like, all right. I'm thinking to myself, Dad? He says, yeah. He says, I'm 12. He says, what? Well, so what? I'm like, I ain't never driven this car before. He says, oh shit, that's right, you're 12. Well, there's no time, you might as well learn now. Bring that car down here. I'm like, all right, I'm learning how to drive a car right here by myself right now. Of course, it's manual shift, you know. I'm like, okay, the R thing's over here. I back this little diesel rabbit down into the hollow, and I stopped it pretty good for me, because it's the first time I ever drove a manual transmission. And Pop says, all right, now I want you to shimmy up this tree, and I want you to tie this rope off. And I'm thinking to myself, if that tree falls the wrong way, like Pappy consistently drops them, that thing could just pick the whole car up and shoot me a mile in the air, and I could, boo, like pulling back a slingshot. That's me and a little diesel rabbit going, woo. And I'm thinking to myself, that would be the good thing. If it fell the wrong way, it would slingshot me a mile, and I'm still in the car buckled up, so I might live. If it falls the right way, which is, for my dad, the wrong way, we're kind of confused. If it falls on the way we don't expect it to fall, it's gonna fall right on the car. And I'm in the car, and it's a cherry tree, and I'm thinking, that would be bad. So either one of these situations could kill me. But, you know, he's your pappy, and he's telling you what to do, and he's a lumberjack now. And I learned, you know, look, I got all my teeth, but some of them are fake, because, you know, I had to put them back in once Papa knocked them out. But I'm like, Daddy, I'm not real comfortable driving the car thingy with the tree tied to it. He says, oh, son, you don't have to drive it. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? He says, I'll pull it up and make the rope nice and taut, so you can, you know, you just gotta just get in there by the car, and you just keep the car on, just in case the wind blows it the wrong way. I said, well, if it blows it the wrong way, it won't fall on the car? And he's like, right. If I yell go, I want you to drive the car away so that the tree don't hit the car. I'm like, okay, Daddy, what am I gonna say? He's your father. So here we go. He's got the tree tied. Drove the car forward, got it taut, doing his chainsaw thing. I'm in the car thinking, well, I'm buckled up. I mean, I'm like Dale Earnhardt, man. I'm like, got the little buckle thing here and a buckle thing there, and I'm thinking, what if I should tie a rope myself like they did when the Titanic sunk? I'm like, oh man, I was scared. I was really scared, because I mean, if this thing falls the wrong way, I get a tree crushed on me, and if it goes the right way, I swear to God, it's going to shoot the car a mile in the air. So he says, what? Right before I get ready, it gets cut all the way, you know, I want you to take the car, put it in neutral, and let it back up. I'm like, what? Huh? I had no idea what he was talking about. Apparently, he wanted me to guess the speed of the tree falling to the ground so I could let the car roll back to wherever the tree falls. I'm 12. First time I've driven a manual shift car in my life. But my papa knows. He says he can do it. You do it. I'm like, I had no idea what he was saying. So anyway, he gets up there and snap in here, crack. I hear, I'm over the chainsaw, the trees, the birds, the leaves, the wind, the little diesel rabbit motor going blah, 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 blah. I hear, I'm like, what's he saying? Well, he's saying the tree's falling. So I look in the mirror over here and I see that it's falling exactly the wrong way. But in this case, I'm going to get launched I'm going to be the first 12-year-old in orbit. Because here we go. So I put the car in neutral and I drop the parking brake and the car starts backing up, and all of a sudden there, bang, and the whole car lifts up and drops back down, and I'm just like this. I think I'm airborne. I am floating in the air right now, and I have not hit the ground yet. Oh my God. I don't know. I never felt like this before in my life. I feel like I'm just floating away. I'm going to die. but I got my seatbelt on. I wonder how far this tree had throated me. I wonder what that loud bang was. That had to be just me shooting off the ground and front banging on the ground. I'm flying. I'm going to die. This is bad. Oh my God. And I swear to God, it was the longest minute, maybe 2 minutes of my life. I'm just, and you hear the wind, you hear the birds, and you're just thinking, when I hit the ground, I mean, I'm just going to be a little tomato splattered all over the road. Blah. What was that? Looks like a Volkswagen Diesel Rabbit and a tomato. What's up with that? I don't know, you know. So I'm sitting there and I am like completely frozen. And all of a sudden I hear, it's all right. And I'm like, I'm not dead. I'm still on the ground. So my Pappy walks on up to the car. Son of a bit. I'm like, what happened, Pappy? Why didn't you back the car up? I said, I did back the car up. We didn't back it up fast enough. I'm like, well, how am I supposed? Well, gosh darn it. And so he yells at me. He starts cussing at me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I did the best as I could. So I get out to the car. And sure enough, the car done went like 30, 40 feet back towards the tree. And I go to the back. And the little Diesel Rabbit ain't got no bumper. The bumper's like, bling. So it basically tore the whole bumper off the back of the car and shot the bumper into orbit. I think it took down a 747. I heard about a plane crash in the area, but I'm sure it wasn't from the bumper of a Diesel Rabbit being projected multiple miles into the air, but it could. So Pappy learned you don't tie a car to the tree you're trying to drop, because if you do, bad things can befall us. But that wasn't the worst of it. Now that he had this almost clear, beautiful lot that it was originally wooded, that he paid extra to have the trees for, there was one tree that my mama said, don't you dare cut down that tree. And I heard her say it time and time again, don't you cut down my, I says, don't you cut down my something tree. It's a special tree Mom liked. I think it had like big flowers on it when it would bloom. And she don't, whatever you do, I don't give a darn what you do, but don't you cut down that tree right there. Well, what Mama was really saying is the house is 34 feet from the tree and the tree is 80 feet tall. So don't you dare let him cut down that tree. Now I think I was 13 by this time, and I says, Mom, how am I going to stop him if he wants to cut down that tree and you're not here? She says, break the chainsaw, do whatever you have to, don't let him cut down that tree. I was like, okay, no problem. So Mom and I went out to the store, and we didn't have no trees left except the tree Mom was worried about. She didn't want him to drop the tree on the house because he always dropped them the wrong way. Now there's nowhere. I mean, he can drop his tree every other direction now because there's no other trees for it to fall into because he done cut them all down. So we come home from the grocery store and I hear the chainsaw going, and she looked at me and I looked at her, and she said, "That simple son of a beep." And she's like, go out there and stop him. Now the way the house works is, on the back of the house, elevated about 12 feet in the air, is a big deck that my parents used to sit out on and drink beer. And so I run out onto the deck, and I see him down there wolfing at that tree with his chainsaw by himself. And he's cutting that tree, and yep, you bet, he's consistent. He's cutting that tree the wrong way. That tree, so I'm like, I gotta get his attention. So I'm on the deck, and I'm like, Dad! Hey, Pappy! Stop! Dad! Dad! Stop! Dad! And all of a sudden I hear, and I just like, uh-oh. And you know them Scooby-Doo cartoons where you run left and you run right and you wonder why people do that? That's exactly what I did. I was like, uh-oh. And no matter which way I went, it was falling right at my nose. I just completely freaked out. I'm like, holy leaping lizard, he's gonna come, he come. So I took off and I run towards the door I came out of, and I got to the door and I was like, and I heard, wham! I mean, it was like, but there was another one that was, wha-bam! Wha-bam, wha-bam, wha-bam! And I'm thinking, I'm gonna die now! And I hear it, and the leaves and the branches just go ripping by me, and I'm holding on to the door, and it was ripping by me there, and I'm just like, I'm gonna die! I swear to God, I'm gonna die. got real quiet. And I saw Jesus. And he said, "It's okay, Billy Ray. He knows not what he does." And I'm like, "Well, Jesus, that should have been obvious when he dropped the first tree the wrong way." And he says, "You're going to get through this. But I do think it's sad that some sizes of the logs will vary." Sure enough, my mama comes to the door. She walks out with the rolling pin in her hand. And my pappy dropped that 80-foot tree right on the house. It bounced across the house, ripping the whole front off the railing off the deck, bouncing across right on my head because the roof line protected me from dying. I got a couple of scrapes when the tree branches and leaves went by, and then it took the corner of the roof off as it fell to the ground. My dad was the first man I ever knowed to successfully dribble an oak tree across a roof. I mean, he dribbled it like he was Wilt Chamberlain. Ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. He was, or is, the best lumberjack I ever saw in my life. If you want to learn how to do things exactly the wrong way, all you need is to call my daddy, and he will show you how to cut down a tree and make it fall exactly the opposite way of where you want it to fall. And he's real good at it. So that's my dad's story. It gets a little better later on in the summer, a couple years later, when I got thrown out. I mean, when I moved out, I was living with Marvelous, and we had a nice little house that we was renting. And that's about 4 or 5 years later. See, now when Dad cut down on them trees, and he cut down and made all them logs, he left all the leaves and branches. So the whole yard, you know, over the course of 5 or 6 years, there's leaves and branches everywhere. I mean, I scraped them up into piles, but I'm like, "What do you want to do with them?" "Oh, they'll disintegrate over time." I'm like, "Oh, interesting." So like I said, we're living in our little house there. One day, my mama comes up. Now my mom, she hates to drive, but she drove over and come over to visit. And I was like, "Well, Mama, this is a really nice surprise." She said, "Well, I thought it best to come over." And I was like, "Is everything okay? You and Papa have a fight?" And she said, "But no, I'm going to need you to go over to the house." I'm like, "Why?" She says, "Well, because your father decided that the branches and trees and leaves ain't dissipating fast enough." I was like, "Dissipating? You mean just getting blown away and just crumbling in the dirt?" "Right. So he's decided to accelerate nature's decomposition." I was like, "Oh, well, how the heck's he doing that?" And she says, "Well, let me put it to you this way. He's got a 5-gallon can of diesel fuel and lots of piles of brush. What do you think's going to happen?" So I'm like, "Are you serious? He's going to burn all that? You can't. It'll burn. You might burn the house down." She says, "That's why I thought it'd be a good day to come over and get a cup of coffee and talk to you about it. Perhaps you should putter over there and see if he's okay, because I didn't want to be there when the house burned down." And I went, "All right, sure enough." Now I was about 20 miles away from my parents at that point, and I started on over. And I'm puttering along, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, well, you know, I think it'll be okay. I mean, it's just going to, you know, they are in piles, you know, shouldn't be too bad. There's a lot of leaves all over the ground, and the leaves, you know. So I'm about 5 miles away, and I hear the first fire engine, you know, all volunteer fire, woo! And I'm thinking, "Oh, don't be going that way. Oh, don't be going." I pull over and let the fire truck go by, and I'm going, "Oh, he's going the wrong way." I mean, he's going the right way, if you know what I mean. And sure enough, as I get about 5 miles away towards the bridge, I see the smoke coming up off to the left, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, I know who's over there. I know how you spell relief. It's called Firehouse. So the firehouse is running that way. I jam it in the super drive, and I try to fly there. And I get there, and I see 4 fire trucks from 3 or 4 different volunteer fire department companies parked down the driveway, along the house, across the house, in the back, and there and smoke and flames and just Armageddon's coming. I mean, it was like a religious thing. And sure enough, sitting there on the back of his diesel rabbit with his 5-gallon empty can of diesel fuel, looking like he'd been ridden hard and put away wet, was my daddy. And he sat there, and I walked on down and went, "Dad, what the hell happened?" He says, "Billy Ray, can you please tell these firemen that nothing's wrong? Because they won't listen to me." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "I just want to start a little fire. It's all under control." I said, "Dad, it looks like the whole backyard's on fire. It looks like you're living in Satan's holler." And he says, "Well, I told the firemen to get the hell out of my yard, and they was trespassing." I says, "But Dad, the brush, if it catches the trees that are back behind there, you could start a forest fire." And he's like, "I ain't gonna start no forest fire. You know that. I ain't started a forest fire in my life." I'm like, "I know that, but the firemen don't know that. So, you know, what can I say?" And he's like, "It just didn't work out." So I told the firemen. They said, "No, this fire needed to be put out completely." So now, instead of a lovely wooded lot, they got a lot that looks like, well, when it was just branches and trees, it just looked like it had piles of brush. Now it's water and mud and dirt and half burned trees and half not burned trees. Now it looks completely like the battlefield from World War I. I mean, that's how bad it looked. And so I consoled my mother in understanding that she only really made one mistake in her life. And then I came to the realization at the ripe old age of 17 years old that sometimes, really all in all, my dad just wasn't cut out to be a lumberjack. He was probably cut out to be probably what he was, which was a steel driving man. So anyway, that's my lumberjack story about my old pappy. Believe it or not, all that stuff happened. I couldn't make it up. He done burned the things down, he dropped things the wrong way, you know, shot the back of the bumper off the car, all that. It's just completely insane. And I'm just happy that we managed to survive it all. So this one's dedicated to you, Pop. It was, you made my childhood a unique and enriching experience, even if I did learn how to drop a tree the wrong way. It's Billy Ray Rachel. Y'all have a good day.